We're going to be talking about security. Not security of the system, because when you're in our cloud, it is very, very secure. What we're talking about is, if I've got a particular book and I've spent a lot of money on this book, how do I secure it so that only certain patrons are allowed to access this book? The same applies for video or digital content. So if I've got this particular
For guidance is recommended for viewers under the age of 15.
And this video is really only to be shown to students that are in year 11 and above, or just under controlled circumstance by the teacher and the teacher alone. Or I want to share this video with a certain select group of people. How do I do that? That's the kind of security we're talking about. We're talking about security of the collection and security of the patrons. So a good starting point is to have a look at the patron record. To do that, we're going to bring up a patron. So we go down to Patron and go to Patron Management. And whenever you're doing anything to do with security, you must be logged on as an administrator or someone with administrative or library experience. Okay. Now we're going to be looking at security. So when you're looking at a patron record, this is the field where it says security. This is the field that we're talking about, security. Okay. So what does that number mean, and how do I get that number in there? So essentially, you can manually say that this is okay for year 12, and always make sure that the numbering system you use for security corresponds with the year level, because that'll make it a lot easier for everybody within your organization to understand. So as an example, if it means that it's 12, that means you need to be a year 12 and above to be able to have access to this, either to circulate material or to look at material. If it was 10, then that means you need to be looking at anything from 10 and under. Okay, 12 says you can look at material that's 10 and under. Okay, 7 means you can look at everything that has a security of 7 and under. And a 0 means that the item that you're looking at has to have no security for you to be able to look at it or borrow it. Okay. Now, instead of manually going through every patron in your system and allocating a security number, we do it according to groups. And the groups that we use is what's called a class grade group. So we allocate a security number to a class grade. So if you are a year 7 patron, then your default security would be 7. If you were a year 12 patron, your default security would be 12. I have looked at some sites and they say 1 means up to year 6, 2 means from year 7 to 8, 3. I don't know why you do those numbering systems, because only you would understand them. Nobody else would understand them unless you explain it to them. But if you said your class grade defines your security system, that's how our system works. That's terrific. Well, what about teachers? Well, teachers are not in a class grade, so they'll just have teaching or they'll have staff. So my recommendation, all staff, choose an arbitrary number like 50. So all staff will have a security of 50. And all library staff will have an arbitrary number higher than staff like 100 or 1000. Okay, so where do we apply the security for these class grades? So when you go to the menu, you go down to configuration and you go down to the authority file, because we're looking for class grade. So when you go to the authority file, audience, it's alphabetical. So we'll go to class grade, because that's where you globally set it. So when you go to class grade, there's all your different class grades. So let's have a look. If I'm looking at my year 7s, and if I edit that, what's the year 7 security? It tells me that it's 7. Okay, so what's my year 10? So go and find your year 10. Okay, I haven't got a year 10, but let's say we look at year 11. So if I click on year 11, their security is 0. Well, that's wrong. We want to make sure that the year 11s, that their security should be 11. Now, when you change the class grade security level and you've got a whole bunch of students, you might have 200 students in year 11. The instant you hit save, literally as fast as save, every year 11 student will now be given a security of 11. And we'll have a look at it. If I look at 12, all my year 12s have a security of 12. And if I have a look at my staff, all my staff have a security of 1000. No, I want to make it just 50. So all my staff will have a security of 50. Okay. And if I look at my administrators, if I've got administrators in here, library staff, they're administrators. So if I go to library staff, well, library staff can't do anything. So my library staff will have a security. If teachers are 50, they need to have a higher security, so I'll give them 100. Okay. So what that means is if I'm 100, I can look at any material that has a security classification of 100 or less. If it was a staff member, let's go back into the staff member. They can look at material that's 50 or less. So staff should always be less than the library staff, because a library staff might be buy some material or add some videos, but they only want to make sure that teachers can't even borrow it. Only the library staff can borrow it. And when you come to video content, you might want to look at a video and you go, why has Joshua, the woodworking teacher, added Game of Thrones? So I'm going to remove it from Joshua's clearance. You make that video 100. All of a sudden, Joshua can't see it as a staff member. And the reason why you've done that is because you might want to see the head of department and say, look, let me show you what Joshua is looking at. It's inappropriate and we shouldn't be downloading. I've spoken to him and he doesn't really listen to me. Can you please talk to him? So that's why the library staff need to have a higher security clearance. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the patrons again. So let's go down to patron management, and let's call up a particular patron. Remember, I had 10,000 and I've now got 50 because I'm an administrator. But if I go find someone that's with S, so let's have a look at Mike Smith. When I look at Mike Smith is a year 12. So his security is 12. And you can just rest the fact that all 12s will have 12, all 11s will have 11s, all 10s will have 10s, all 9s will have 9s, and so forth and so on. So how does the patron security interact with my collection? So let's have a look at what it is on the collection side. On the collection side, every catalog record, okay, so let's have a look at this book, 100 people. If I click the edit button, it'll bring up the catalog screen. And every catalog record has a security rating there. Now, there's nothing wrong with this book. It's like a Guinness Book of Records, so it's just got a whole bunch of facts. I don't have any issue with it. But if this was a senior fiction, I'll say 10, which means that only year 10s and above can have access to this video and this book to borrow it. Okay. And if it was a senior fiction, but it had some language that was questionable, but it was mandatory reading for all year 12s, I would make that to a 12, which means that you have to be a year 12 to be able to borrow this book. Okay. So every time someone came to borrow it, and if I zapped in the patron's name or barcode and he was a year 6 or a year 10 student or a year 11 student or anyone under year 11, it'll pop up a message on circulation desk says, this patron is not allowed to borrow this particular item. Do you want to override and still allow him to? So at the circulation desk, it'll notify you, but you have the option as an administrator to stop it. Okay, if you want self-circulation, it just wouldn't even allow it through. It'll just say, sorry, you can't borrow the book. That's the end of it. So that's how that would work. Okay, so every item has a security code that must work with the student's patron record. And if you add videos to the system, and if I click on edit for that video and it brings up the catalog record, that's for a year 10. And I can go, yeah, it's a family movie. I don't have any issues with 7s and above watching it. So you just make it 7. So now anyone that's year 7 and above will be able to watch this family movie Flipper. If you don't have any issues with the video and it's just Flipper, you can make it 0. That means everyone will be able to watch it. So not only does it apply to the item, as far as a book goes, it'll also apply to the patron. Now, let's say I make this video a year 12 and I save it. What that means is that when I go into my schools collection and I logged in as a year 11 student, that video will not appear there, simply because what's the point of showing it to you when it's outside your security range and letting you know that we have this material, but you can't watch it, you can't borrow it. So if you're not allowed to see that because it's out of your security range, you won't even have it appear on the inquiry screen for you. So that's very, very important. Okay, so if I'm looking at this video, it's only because I can actually watch the video and I can play the video. If I log out and then I'm looking at the school's collection, what's going to happen is it will not even show you the video, because, and if it does, you won't be able to play it because it doesn't know who you are. So you have to be able to be logged on to the system, and you log on by signing in here or single sign on. And when you're on and you give us your login credentials, your barcode, your username or your email address, we will straight away examine what year level you are and only bring up the appropriate material that's here. Okay, so that's how security works. Before I let you go, let me show you how we automate the security for digital content. So you are a TV for Education user and only teachers have access to that TV for Education button. TV for Education is the largest, most up-to-date content library for educational institutions in the world. We have in excess of 160,000 items as of June 2020, and we're adding a minimum of about 200 to 250 new items every week. So if you go here, these are all the recently added. If I'm looking at this item over here and I'm looking at, so that's a G, that's a PG, okay, that's a PG. I'm looking for something other than PG. So let's hope I find, here's an M, National Lampoon's Vacation. So if I'm looking at this and I go, ooh, this is a nice funny movie, but it's got coarse language and got drug references, but I'd still like it in my collection. So when I go add, it's added to the school's collection. Okay, so that's National Lampoons. And I'm also going to add this PG. Okay, and I'm going to go, and you can see it's PG, and I go add this video, and this resource has been added to my school's collections, Codes and Conspiracies. And I'm going to add a G, Gardening Australia, and that is a G, so I'm going to add that to my school's collection. Now that it's been added to the school's collection, does it mean I have to go in here and then manually give it a security? Why can't it give it a default security? So we've got a G, we've got a PG, and we've got an M. Let's have a look at the security on those. We'll start with the G. Click here and click on the edit button to bring up the catalog record, and let's look at the security rating. And that's a security of 0, which means everybody can watch that. Okay, that's interesting. So now let's go to the next one, which is a PG. Click on that one and click on the edit. Let's see what security this has been given. And that's given a security of 8. So a PG looks like it's year 8 and above. Okay, what about the M? What rating was the M given? So let's edit this one and have a look at this. And we'll discover that the M is for year 12s and above. Pretty interesting. So how did that happen? So if you want to moderate automatically the security rating based on the classification of the video, there is a really neat little feature for you to do it for all videos that you add from now moving forward. We can do a global change for movies going backwards for what you've already got, but moving forward, you go to the menu, go to configuration, and you go to the authority file editor again. And remember, last time we went to the class grade, but this has got nothing to do with class grade. This is about the videos that you've added. So if you scroll all the way down, you got default video security. When you click on that, there's all the different ratings. And you've said if it's a G, give it a 0. If it's an M, give it a 12. If it's an MA, give it a 50. If it's a PG, give it an 8. If it's an R, give it a 999. You can go, oh, but the M's, I don't want it to be 12. I'd like them to be 10s. So if you want to change any of these defaults, so M, which is a 12, you click on the pencil here and say any M's from now on are year 10s and save that. So now, if ever I added any M videos moving forward, they will be available for year 10s and above. As simple as that. If you want us to apply this retrospectively, you need to talk to us and we will go and apply all these ratings once you've set them to the appropriate year level to the students. Now remember how we got 10s and 12s and 8s and whatever. That's because we said the security corresponds with the year level. Can you imagine how difficult it would be to work with if you said 0 was everyone, 1 was everyone up to year 8, 2 was everyone from year 8 to year 10, and 3 was everyone from 11 and 12. And then 4 was teachers, 5 was library staff. You know, it's just very hard and difficult to keep track of. So keep it according to year level and everyone will be happy. Thank you very much for letting us explain security in SmartSuite. Thank you.